your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 4th of February 2018. We have a packed show. We have a number of guests on the show. Loads of information to talk about. So we're not going to waste time gabbling on. We're just going to get straight into it. Right, let's just talk about the guests that are going to be on the show first. Our first guest on will be a lady called Catherine Costello, who is an ex-detective with the Metropolitan Police in London, and now she's involved with missing people in Ireland. So we're going to be talking to Catherine about that very important subject. And then during the interview, we're going to bring in a person that Catherine knows called Patrick Collins, who has a sister that's missing, and he wants to do an appeal on the show for his sister. So we'll be bringing Patrick in probably around 8 o'clock. And then at the end of the show, for about 20 minutes, we're going to be bringing Danielle Vérité on. Danielle's going to be speaking at the Open Mind Conference down in Waterford. And we're going to get Danielle on. Haven't had Danielle on the show since last year, I think. I'm going to get Danielle on and have a chat to her and see what she's going to be talking about. But before we crack on with all the information, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, communication channels are...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, the OYM chat room can be found at oymradio.com, and that's where the place to be for your questions this evening. A big hello to everyone already logged into the chat room. You're most welcome. If you're not registered on the chat room, then you will have to apply for registration before you can log in. We also have People's Internet Radio chat room. Also, a big hi to everyone logged in over there too. On our own website there, you will see links for the YouTube channel, for Facebook, the anti-social media, Twitter, also Skype, and the all-important phone number is there as well, 046 927 1212. And if you are going to call from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 469 271212. We also have the email address there, info@oymradio.com. So if you're a new listener, or you haven't heard us before, or you're a long-time listener and you've never contacted us, just fire us off a quick email. Let us know that you're listening and where you're listening from. We do appreciate that. We also have on the website there to tune in Radio Link application. There's a link there for that. It's a free app for your mobile device where you can listen to us 24 hours a day. We're also on Radio Garden. If you haven't heard of Radio Garden, do check it out, radiogarden.com. You will see a big map there of the world. Just drill down to Ireland and look for Walton's Mountain. You will see us there as well.
Fantastic stuff. We do get emails in from people all around, by the way. The emails do come in from different countries, which is quite interesting to know that we are actually getting out there. So that's fantastic. Right,
we've actually had emails from countries I've never heard of.
Yeah, there you go. Right, you're going to kick us off, Steve.
Yes, I'm going to kick us off. Reports from the dailymail.co.uk. It says, Scotland Yard detective, he says, I was told to ignore meat rack VIPs during paedophile probe. Scotland Yard detective claims he was told to ignore VIPs during a paedophile probe now being investigated by the police watchdog. Former Chief Inspector Howard Groves, who served in the murder squad during a distinguished 34-year career, was investigating a West End paedophile ring with alleged links to MPs and TV stars in the 1980s. Detectives found that the boys as young as 14 were being supplied to men in Piccadilly Circus in an area known by the boys as the Meat Rack. Mr. Groves, now 58, told the Mail on Sunday, I remember we were called to a meeting and told by a senior officer that if we found any establishment figures involved, the investigation would be stopped. Names of MPs, celebrities and businessmen did surface during the inquiry, though Mr. Groves, who retired in 2014, wasn't privy to them, and 25 men were convicted. The operation was led by Met Commander Trevor Lloyd Hughes, who died in 1986 amid claims of soliciting male prostitutes.
Yeah, it's a cesspit of corruption and paedophilia out there. I like to think that there's positive changes going on. Fingers crossed. Right, the other little bit of news we have is we were asked to mention that Nigel Farage urges Irish Eurosceptics to stand for European Parliament election. The former UKIP leader and current MEP was addressing the Irexit Freedom to Prosper conference at the RDS in Dublin, which was organised by his Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy group in the European Parliament. Mr Farage said he believed the pro-Brexit candidates can win votes from pro-EU politicians in the next European elections. So, obviously, you know, Ireland getting out of Europe. Well, we are going to be talking about sovereignty at the end of the show. And something that happened on a major level over the weekend, which Thomas announced on his show, if you're not aware of it. So we're going to be talking about that at the end of the show. It'll have massive repercussions across the globe, all positive stuff. So tune in, make sure you're there at the end of the show, and we'll tell you what it is if you haven't heard the news already. Right, how's your week, Steve?
My week's fine. Just a couple of things to mention very quickly. The flu shot. A lot of people have been talking about the flu shot, and I've heard more people who've got the flu shot have actually come down with the flu and quite a bad dose of it also. Obviously, I haven't had the flu shot, and neither have you, and neither of us have had the flu. I'm just saying. And speaking about the RDS, the peace proms were on in the RDS yesterday. They were on, I think it was Friday, Saturday and Sunday. They're on as well today. I was actually there last night with my wife. My son was one of 2,500 children who were singing at the peace proms, representing the school down here. And I have to say, it was a very enjoyable evening. It was great entertainment and a lot of talented children around this country. So, thepeaceproms.com is the website, if anyone's interested in checking it out. And the only other thing, I was fortunate enough to just kind of messing around on Skype during the week. You know the way Donald Trump, he's always tweeting. Well, I was messing about on Skype, and I came across this Donald Trump at White House, and I'm going, yeah, right, that's Donald Trump at the White House. So I said I'd give him a ring anyway, and just to see what happened. And I recorded the call. So this is just a little call we had between myself and Mr. Trump.
Hi Donald, it's Stephen George here from Open Your Mind Internet Radio. I'm guessing you probably never heard of Open Your Mind Radio?
Steve, yes, right?
Wow, I'm impressed. So you actually have heard of OYM Radio?
Boy, you got a very big hand.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. No, for those listening on the interview, myself and Donald are actually chatting here on Skype. I just put my hand up to the camera to kind of give him a high five. No, Donald, it's just that the hand is closer to the camera, so it might look bigger.
That's not fair.
Okay, let's move on. So anyway, Donald, you do listen to the show, so you also are familiar with Alan?
I love him. But he's a special guy.
Yeah, he definitely is. He does a great job here with all the interviews on OYM.
And by the way,
yeah,
you did a great job.
Okay, but it's not just us. I mean, we do have lots of other people over here in Ireland as well who do participate. They join up on the chat room every week on both OYM Radio and also People's Internet Radio. If you could describe all the other people who are involved in the whole awakening process across Ireland and the world, 3 words, how would you describe them?
Really incredible people.
And could you expand on that maybe?
I have so many friends in this group, and there is a great coming together.
A great many friends, as in what? I mean, do you have some common interest?
In the fight for freedom.
Yeah, but in the fight for freedom, some people say that since you've been elected, that you've made a lot of promises, but you haven't actually delivered. I mean, what would you say to those people?
Boy, you got a very big hand.
No, but come on, seriously, what would you honestly say to those people who say that you've kind of reneged on all your promises?
Nothing at all.
No, but seriously, I mean, honestly, just be honest for one moment. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who do believe that you haven't done as you said you were going to do. So, I mean, address them, please. I mean, we've got an open platform here on OYM Radio. So, I mean, please, what would you honestly say? From the heart, speak from the heart. What would you say to those people?
I really believe this is just the beginning. You know, I've kept one promise after another.
Okay, and just in relation to disease, and okay, let's say cancer as an example, we have a lot of people around the world, and there's a lot of different, what some people call cures for cancer. I know we can't really say cure, but there's a lot of experimental drugs out there as well that are being hid from people who have, little time left and would be willing to try anything. What's your thoughts on that?
Under the old system, they don't want to give them even an experimental medicine because they're afraid they're going to be hurt. Well, they're not going to be around for 2 months. So they'll sign a waiver, and we're going to give them the hope of finding something. You have people, and I've known people like this, they travel all over the world to try and find a cure. And we have great experimental drugs, but it'll be years before they come onto the market. So it's called Right to Try. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm sure everyone listening here this evening will also agree. These drugs should be made available to the people who absolutely need it most. But there's a lot of other medicines out there, possibly herbal medicines, that have been around for quite some time, and people have had some great success with these type of alternatives. I mean, in an ideal world, what are your thoughts on the likes of, let's say, cannabis oil? Do you think that would be something that maybe should be freely available to the general public, and not only freely available, but they should be allowed to grow their own unhindered by law enforcement, police, Gardaí, etc.?
I don't know, but I believe that the legalization of marijuana, other than for medical, because I think medical, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
So, Donald, I mean, how much work do you actually do with that? You seem like you're always on the go. There's press conferences, talks, speeches. How much work do you actually do?
24 hours around the clock.
Okay, so not much time for sleep. Okay, look, we I know this is only a very, very quick chat. We'd probably have to do a part 2. Would you be up for a part 2?
Maybe we'll do a phase 2. I don't know. We'll do a phase 2. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, well, phase 2, part 2, whatever you want to call it. Look, let's why don't you just give Alan a ring during the week and check the schedule. We can see if we can maybe book you in for a full interview. How about that?
I love him, but he's a special guy, and I want to thank you. You did a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, so look, we'll talk to you again. So thanks for joining us just for this very quick chat here on Open Your Mind Internet Radio.
Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Okay, and that was just a little quick chat with Donald Trump during the week.
So that's what you've been up to during the week.
Yeah. Rubbing shoulders with the elites.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I was actually quite impressed. The fact that he actually came out and he said that he kind of supports the marijuana. So I mean, step in the right direction.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
How was your week?
Yeah, not too bad. Just a couple of things before we get Catherine in. I had a busy doing some Pain Genie stuff this week for someone. Which is hopefully we get a good report back on that. That'll be fantastic. And I met up with a spiritual friend of mine I've known for about 12 years, and she brought along a friend of hers who wanted to chat with me about the bigger picture. Well, needless to say, 3 hours later, I think we got through some of the stuff.
3 hours?
3 hours.
That's short for you.
Yeah, 3 hours is short. But we got through some of the stuff, so, it was a good conversation. And the thing I heard during the week as well, it's nothing got to do with Open Your Mind Radio or what's going on, but did you hear, Paul Young, the singer?
Yep.
Did you hear that his wife died during the week, a couple of weeks ago?
No, I did not hear that.
She died of brain cancer.
Jesus.
And she was only 52. So I'm surprised, because normally I'd pick up on things like that and people would post stuff or whatever, and didn't hear anything. It was just Stacey was her name, and she passed away. So just a strange thing. And the one other thing that happened during the week. I mean, I know the cabal are pretty bad on psychopaths, but they really, really hit the bottom of the barrel during the week.
How so?
The news that I heard during the week, I couldn't believe it when I heard it, was they're only thinking of bringing the Spice Girls back. I mean, talk about really kick it in the nuts. How bad is that? The Spice Girls are planning on reforming. They're all getting 10 million each or something to reform.
They're hard to be called the Spice Girls. No, they can't be called the Spice Girls, and I'll tell you why. Because I heard a woman talking during the week, and she was saying that it's an insult for a woman between the ages of 5 and 55. She said it's an insult to be called a girl.
Oh yeah. So I heard this
so it must be. So it'll have to be the Spice Women.
The Spice Women, and it just doesn't sound right.
No.
Anyway, so the Spice Girls are coming back apparently. I don't know. That's bad news in itself. Right. Okay. Let's bring our guest in. Right now, Steve, you have the bio for Catherine. So if you do the honours, that'd be fantastic.
Yes, our guest this evening is Catherine Costello. Catherine is an ex-detective who worked for the Metropolitan Police in London before moving back to Ireland. She got involved in missing people when she found out that the Irish police only started to keep a database of missing people in the year 2000. Before this time, there were no records of missing people. And the kind of Father Ted approach, that for anyone who doesn't know, Father Ted is a TV comedy about an incompetent priest. But the kind of the Gardaí of the time, their approach was, sure, they're probably gone to their friends or their family. Should they be back in an hour or so? And that really kind of says a lot about the policing in Ireland. Exactly, and we're going to find out more about that. Good evening, Catherine. How are you?
Hi. Well, actually, that's incorrect because I'll tell you why. It was in 2004. It was the first year that An Garda Síochána current system for recording and solving missing persons case. They actually began to record figures. And the first figures are from 2004, and there were 5,060 cases. And of those 5,060 cases of missing people, 83 are still unsolved.
That's incredible. 2004. That's when they start officially. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that just says incompetence to me.
Well, you see, I suppose now, in fairness, what was happening is everything began to get computerized, as you know, and up to then you would have been dealing with paper files. So I'm not laying criticism on that, but what I'm saying is I have a big question mark over figures, because what happened was Angus Shanahan, a bank manager's son, vanished in the year 2000 in Limerick, and it was his first cousin, that was Nancy, Angus's mother's nephew, Father Duffy in Dublin. He realised that there was no website whatsoever for missing persons, so he set up the first electronic missing persons civilian website. It's absolutely brilliant. It's still ongoing. He's worked tremendously hard on it, and it is highly likely that because of his input, that the Guards then began to, in 2004, is the first year of An Garda Síochána current system for recording. Now, Father Aquinas has, in his interview here, he has, and he would probably be more on top of it, to be honest with you, than anybody in Ireland, but he has 1,800 people missing in the Republic.
That's incredible. But before we get into that, Catherine, just let's talk about your background for a minute. You're an ex-detective that you worked for the Metropolitan Police in London, and then you came back from the UK to Ireland. And what made you get involved in the whole missing people scenario? What started it off for you?
Well, actually, no, I used to be on special operations in plain clothes. I spent most of my service in uniform, and I spent a tremendous amount of time on missing persons because I was always just very, very interested in it. And what happened was I happened to be home on holiday in the year 2000. And if ever I saw that there was an Irishman missing, particularly from Ireland, being Irish, you look after your own, I would always have done whatever I could in London if I was able to help. And I happened to be back in Limerick in 2000 when 2 young men were missing, vanished off the face of the earth, and so there was a potential maybe they were voluntary missing, maybe could be in the UK. So that's how I got involved in Limerick's missing men. I wasn't back in Ireland until about 2010. I had met the parents in the year 2000 when I was home on holiday, and it wasn't until 2010 that they realised I was back in Ireland and approached me for help because they were no further forward than they were in the year 2000. So basically, that's how I got involved in missing persons.
Okay. And, number one, the fact that they only kind of start officially keeping a record in 2004 is pretty bad. But what have been the causes. I mean, do you have any idea yourself why these people have gone missing and why you can't find them? I mean, what excuses? I mean, before 2004, what were the Gardaí saying when people went missing? What was their excuse?
Well, you would definitely see they have definitely improved it now, for want of it, and I'll come to that in a moment. But exactly what you said, so they've gone travelling with their friends. So young men probably met a girl at a club. That's why he's not home. He'll arrive back on Monday with his tail between his legs. That was the type of reaction then that parents got. And then to realise that 18, 20 years later that they're still looking for their child. So if the initial work isn't done on when the parents report him, you can lose vital evidence, or there's no urgency put into it. So basically now they're categorised when your child is reported missing. It's categorised, say, from 1 to 5. Are they high risk, suicidal, or whatever? But they still don't record the number of missing people that are found dead. So there's still massive problems there on missing people. I think the reason why I'm doing this interview actually with you, Alan, is I'm hoping parents, hopefully they're never going to be in the boat where their child vanishes, but I would advise them to get very involved from the very beginning that if their child go missing. And you have to look at those 4 scenarios when a person goes missing. They can have had an awful accident. They can have voluntary gone missing. They may have suicidal thoughts, which could be depression or a family dispute. And then the last option is foul play. And parents, when they report their child to the guards, they're obviously desperately worried, which is why they've gone in there in the first place. But it's usually important that they take notes at the time, because they may not realise, but they may need those notes in 5 or 10 years' time,
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. And they should actually as well sit down as a family when their child is missing, and they should make collective notes with the family, like do a psychological breakdown. Did he tell anybody he was worried? Because we actually now have the facility to do a psychological breakdown. So we can sort of, looking at the facts, we can eliminate an awful accident. We can eliminate suicide from speaking to suicide experts. We can eliminate voluntary missing, and then that just leaves us that this is a murder inquiry. So it is, parents always hold out hope, but equally they respect being spoken to with facts to sustain it. Do you understand? Like, at least I've met so many families that 10 years on, there may be a sighting that their child was seen in Spain, and they're putting the money together to go out and check, and it's a false sighting. And really and truly, you might be, you have to come to the stage where you say, don't be wasting your money anymore. Your son was murdered and he's buried, and it's a case of trying to find him. I think it's a massive, massive problem. I think there's an awful lot of men murdered in Ireland that are murder inquiries and not missing persons. I think they're wrongly classified.
Okay, well, when you say talking about murder, men being murdered, but we do the radio show, and we've had people on the show, and we know there's another element to certain things, and that's the fact that people and children get abducted for whatever satanic practices, or just to be abused and used and then murdered. So that's the kind of other side. So I'd be kind of...
That's very disturbing, yes. I have a friend, Alana Fiona, now. She's a reporter, a freelance, and she would tell you, in fact, and I have the statistics here in front of me, there's 434 children went missing in Ireland, in 2000. I'm trying to see what year it was here. But they actually have only 141 children listed on the official Garda website.
I mean, that's just madness, because we spoke to Mary Boyle's cousin
so that's
on the show.
300 children less that are gone on a website, that should be on a website. And we had children, of course, coming in to airports, being put into a hostel and vanishing within 24 hours.
Yeah. And this is what we've heard as well with the Mary Boyle case, which you mentioned there, where that was kind of a cover-up, and it's still being a cover-up, and they're still trying to get answers. So we know that there's kids being trafficked in. Human trafficking is major at the moment. I know Trump is trying to stop it from happening or cut down on it. And there's people being trafficked in, and then, as you say, they're sent into some place, and then off they disappear and used as prostitution, drugs, child abuse, whatever, and then obviously when they've had the use, they get murdered and taken out. And so there is more of a sinister spin to this than just people, going away for a few days, probably meeting a girl and going off and then coming back a few days later. I know it's a whole kind of mix, but there's quite a lot there, Steve.
Yeah, and the majority do come home safely. I mean, you have to, like, for example, I've given you a figure there that there were 5,060 when cases reported to the Guards, but 83 were out of the 5,060. 83 were unsolved. So that the great majority do come home safe and sound. But the other issue, of course, as well with the Guards is that in the unit they have for missing persons in Phoenix Park, they actually have one sergeant, one Garda and one civilian,
right?
And that is all. So it's we really and truly need a missing persons unit in every station. One officer designated to each case. To be honest with you,
yeah.
And it is a massive problem. I think it's very, very under. I think it could be a very serious problem in the Republic. To be honest with you. I have statistics here as well that we have figures. Now, bearing in mind, we had the trouble in the north of Ireland, and I have compared the figures. I have only the figures from Northern Ireland between 2004 to 2008, the figures from the PSNI. But when I compare the figures from the PSNI in those 4 years, we actually, in the Republic, we have 2 to 3 times the rate of missing persons as Northern Ireland.
Wow. That's, it's quite frightening. Steve, you've been looking at the missing persons website there.
Yeah, I've actually looked at the website, Catherine, and it's unbelievable. I mean, there's so many people on. I'll be honest, I was kind of expecting to see the usuals, that we hear about from time to time, the Annie Carricks, the Jojo Dollards, the
Fiona
usuals.
Sinnott.
Yeah. But there's a lot. I only went to Dublin, Meath, and Cork. And I mean, the Dublin one is the length of your arm, and the amount of people who are missing, and like some of them are missing since the mid-90s. And when you think about it, as you said at the top of the show, I mean, we haven't actually really had a database in Ireland since 2004. So obviously,
but you see, the problem you have here is the human cost. It is beyond sad, that you meet mums and dads, and it's their child. They're no further forward from the day their child vanished, and they get cancer, they despair, they long for a call once a year from the Guards. Is there any update? Then if there's a body found, their heart jumps. Could it be their child? There's a shock and emotional impact on families. I feel they're very, very abandoned. I genuinely do.
They are. They are.
But there has been progress, but very slow progress. I feel the politicians really are not on top of it. I think they don't fight for families. That's why they're elected.
They don't fight for anybody, Catherine, let's be honest. The politicians get in for the 4 or 5 years, and they jump on the gravy train, stick their nose in the trough for 4 or 5 years, and then kick the bucket down the road and get a nice big pension.
Unfortunately, missing people don't have, obviously can't vote. So
you know what I find really, that's, if something happens to your child, and okay, they're in a car crash or whatever, and then you kind of put it to rest that that's your child and they died and you bury them. But the fact that your child goes missing and you're going...
You've no closure.
You've no closure at all on it whatsoever, and that's kind of...
it's like you live forever in a mist. Yeah, you live forever in a mist. And as I said, their hearts jump every time there's a body found.
All people want, Catherine, they just want to say goodbye. I mean, at least if you can say goodbye to someone, whether they're dying or whether they're dead, at least you can say goodbye.
Yeah.
And it does give you closure. I know that's important to a lot of people. And obviously with these people who are missing
but there's another side to it as well, as I have found out here in Limerick, for example, that people, particularly with Angus Shanahan, now that was just one case that I did work on, and I did go and spent many, many hours with a suicide expert going right through his life, and the same with Desmond Walsh. They were categorised as missing persons. I said they're not missing persons, they're murder investigations. So if you have a murder investigation, what do you expect? Don't you expect at least 10 detectives to be working on the case? What is a murder investigation? Do you expect that detective to be going out dealing with a break-in or a fatal car accident or a hanging? No, he's on a murder investigation. That's why you get results. You stick with it. But here, you're back to the same. It could be, we suspect foul play in a lot of missing persons case, but there's no further action on it. There's no squad in place.
Yeah. Well, there's a comment that one of our listeners made on the chat room, and I kind of, I know it's tongue in cheek, but I kind of, it makes sense. If you actually if the people that went missing drove the car without tax or didn't pay their TV license, they would be found quite quickly, I reckon. That seems to be where all the bloody resources are pointed to when it comes to making revenue. See, missing people don't make the government money, Catherine. And this is what we've mentioned this on the show before. Anything like crime doesn't make the government money. Missing people don't make the government money. But revenue, things like not having your tax disc or speeding or all that makes revenue. So the priority is to make the money. So maybe that's why we only have 3 people in the Phoenix Park, because it doesn't make money. And I hate to point it down to a bottom line financial point of view, but that's the way we see things at the moment, the way the system works with the government. It's all about revenue, and missing people don't make revenue, and it could be as clinical as that.
But then again, you do have a number of guards who, and I've seen it at first hand, that get to know the family, see the pain in the family, try their hardest for the family. Sometimes can even take the case a bit personally, go that extra mile. But often they're held back as well because they may go into retirement. Like, for example, we have 17 murdered in Dublin. That's 17 murder inquiries. That's going to take every possible resource in, and of course they're putting in massive resources to stop more shootings. But you then come to, well, where's the staff for missing persons? And they haven't got the staff because they stopped recruitment in 2010. And what I've been arguing, and several members of Retired Garda, is let Retired Garda come back for 2 days a week.
Yeah, good idea.
Just re-employ them for 2 days a week. It's not taking up their lives. They're not getting involved in murder inquiries or whatever, but bring them back in to deal with the missing persons. Because it genuinely needs a radical shake-up. It really, really does, because we're leaving so many families despairing at what they call the justice system. Now, in recent years, I was involved in that as well. We've sort of got National Missing Persons Day. It's one day in the year where National Missing Persons are recognised, and families of victims are invited up to family house, and then at the end of it, they're asked to come out and throw a red rose into a pond, and there's a photo opportunity for Francis Fitzgerald and Noreen O'Sullivan. They're there, and that's it. And that's been going now for 3 years. And a lot of the families are saying to me, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
The commissioner is getting the photo opportunity and Francis Fitzgerald, but we're not getting another call from until the following year till we get to come up for another photo opportunity, as if to say, what a great little country we live in. But, you know, a lot of them are thinking it's just a waste of time. It's a publicity stunt.
Well, Catherine, that's the PR and marketing of politicians and the government. That's what they do. They have to be seen by the press that they're standing there trying to help the people, throwing roses into a stream or river or whatever, into a pond. But that's just the PR and marketing arm of it. I mean, they don't give it a damn. They don't. Let's be honest. They don't give a damn. And you're right. The people should be saying, we're not coming to this event anymore because it's only PR and marketing for you lot. The money being spent on this PR and marketing, invest the money into something that's going to help the people that have family missing.
Well, it was quite ironic, really, because we have, I think it's 45 missing in Limerick. And Michael Noonan, he managed to get 9 million to run a giant dummy. Can you hear me there?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. He managed to capture 9 million to run a giant dummy through the streets of Limerick. And I remember saying at the time, what a complete and utter waste of money.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do. You know these three guys that went missing in Limerick. This is what really started it all off when we got contacted by Mark, I think, and from one of the groups on Facebook. And you were saying about the 3 guys that went missing in Limerick. Do you know about that case? Do you know what happened there?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yes. Well, there's actually more than 3, but we're talking about 3 men alone that worked in the Dell factory. Vanished in very suspicious circumstances. I'm still baffled how they were ever missing persons, because they were never missing persons. They were murder inquiries from day one, and you don't have to be a cop to realise it. So they were definitely not classified. There's also several men that are missing in Limerick that were never put up on a website.
Well, apparently what Mark said to me, Catherine, was that these guys were in the local pub. They worked in Dell, they were in the local pub, and then they, for some reason, went missing, and he reckons, I don't know how true this is, that they knew something or came across something, and obviously people wanted it to be kept quiet or shut up, and this is why the 3 guys were taken out or have gone missing. So there's something sinister going on. This is what Mark was saying to me.
Well, that's very highly possible, but what is also a fact is that people who gave interviews, and a lot of women are involved, and went on programs such as Cracking Prime and gave interviews, were part and parcel of the corruption into the disappearance of those boys. And you'd actually think, how can women who are now mothers themselves know that a boy was murdered, and yes, waffle to the press and waffle to the guards? And you think, pardon?
No, I was just going to say, doesn't surprise me, because there's an increase in women getting involved in paedophilia.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Yeah. Yes, and I think that often happens as well. It's always the men that are shot, for example, in the drugs in Dublin. And it's always the men that are blamed for paedophilia. I mean, I was actually involved in a big paedophilia case, and it was a couple, and of course it was the woman was every bit as bad. I think she ended up getting 17 years, thank heavens. Yes, you're absolutely correct that it's not reported correctly.
Exactly, and it's funny that, because I spoke to a family member a few weeks ago, and I was mentioning this, and the family member was a female family member, and she couldn't believe that a woman would be involved in paedophilia. She just thought it was the men. And I said, no. I said, no. I said, women are involved. If not, there's an increase in women getting involved in it. Because she couldn't believe that a woman, as you said, would actually harm a child.
Yeah, well, the case I was involved in now, it was 3 children under 8 years of age, and the mother actually had the paedophiles come directly to her apartment to abuse her 3 children, and the youngest was 2.
That's incredible.
And she was allowing photographs to be taken.
That's unbelievable. It's a sick world
Yeah.
we live in. It really is.
It is, yeah. But you see, the lesson to every parent, no matter from what background you're from, the lesson is that parents are the, like your child might be playing with another little girl, for example, of 8 or 9, and you have the sleepovers, which is sort of a new thing really in Ireland. And you have to work out how the paedophile manages to get the child silence. So, like, if your little girl went to stay overnight now and something terrible happened to her, how come she can't come back and tell you? Well, it's very, very simple. He has said, if you tell Mummy and Daddy what happened, when you're in bed tonight and when it's dark, I will come in with a knife and I will end up cutting your daddy's throat and your mummy's throat, and then you live with me forever.
Mm.
So they terrified the child into not telling the parents, because the child thinks he's protecting his parents, or she thinks she's protecting her parents. So that's where it's hugely important when you put your child to bed and you're reading them a story. I did it with my children from the age of 8 and 9. I was very comfortable talking about it and not scaring them in the slightest. But I would say you don't ever. Did anybody ever tell you to keep secrets from Mummy and Daddy? And you can do it as gentle as that.
Yeah.
Because you can say to them, sometimes very bad people can tell you to keep secrets, but you can introduce it like that, so you can empower the child. If that man is threatening them, the child knows that no, Mummy has already warned me about that.
Yeah. No, that completely makes sense. Education, knowledge, it's always good. Steve, you want to come in there?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of chat going on, background chat going on the chat rooms in relation to what we're talking about. I just want to say, if anyone has any direct questions, and if you do want to ask, just pop them up there. But a lot of information coming through. Like, it says that the right, he said, women are the main carers in foster care. And there's a lot of abuse that does go on in foster care. And someone actually said as well, and I don't know how true this is. It may be true, it may not be true. We're not saying it is, but that a lot of the retired, some retired Gardaí are involved in kind of paedophile rings. Now that's obviously just someone's opinion. We can't say whether that's true or not. So, but I mean,
but there has been several guards jailed. I mean, but it's from every walk of life. We've had judges here. It's from every walk of life. Unfortunately, that illness, and it is an illness, and you can chemically castrate them, but it's still in their head.
Yeah.
So there is definitely guards, but then there's judges from every walks of life. To be honest with you, sometimes they can be the pillar of society.
Well, Catherine, one thing I always say to people is to go and watch. You lived in the UK, and you probably remember Cynthia Payne. You've heard of her, have you?
Indeed, I have. Oh, yes. She's the Dublin lady, is she not?
She was a madam in the 70s and 80s in London. She ran a brothel.
Oh, she did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember Cynthia.
They made a movie of her life with
Julie Walters
called Personal Services. And if you watch the movie, you'll see that she always got off in court, because the people who are in court, bringing her to court, I mean, the judges were in her little harem along with the barristers and everybody else. And she's well known. So if people want to see the movie Personal Services, it gives you an idea how kind of sordid everything is, and it goes all the way up the top. As we all know, because it's all coming out now anyway, with the old pedogate pizza fiasco over in America, and what's happening, that's all coming out there as well. So it's all being exposed, which is great, but are we seeing anybody being, like, higher up being arrested? Maybe they're just throwing the lower down people to the wolves just to protect themselves. I don't know. You probably know better how it works.
Well, I always genuinely think that the paedophiles, they're quite, they're devious. I wouldn't call them clever. They're just devious, horrible people. But if parents how can I say, have their children on guard for sure, I certainly wouldn't encourage sleepovers unless it's direct family. Know the signs to look out for, of course. If anything does ever happen to your child, they have nightmares, they wet the bed, they cling to the parents a bit more. They should really educate themselves as well. And I think an awful lot of Irish people or Irish parents are very protective of their parents. I think they're great, the vast majority. But if you get a vulnerable woman, a lone parent, she may have an alcohol problem, she may have a money problem, they're the ones that they target. They befriend this is how they get into the clutches, and this nice man will call and he'll bring her a box of groceries for the week, and if she has a drink problem, he'll bring her a couple of bottles of booze and cigarettes and things like that. That's how he gets his foot in over the door. Yeah. And so these are the type of families that are targeted. But then, of course, if your child unfortunately plays with that woman's child, they can be subjected to, if there's a sleepover, which a lot of parents won't obviously allow their child if they think that there's that kind of a problem going. But these are the type of families where it can flourish, because if you have vulnerable families, whether it is alcohol, drugs, poverty, they become like a moth to the flame to the paedophiles, so that those children are a lot more vulnerable.
Now, obviously, there has to be a caveat here, because at the end of the day, there are people out there who are good Samaritans and are helping out and working for charities and stuff like that. And this is the problem that you have. It's very hard to decide who's who. But we don't want a society that's paranoid. We want a society that's aware, but not paranoid, because, you'd be biting your nose off to spite your face. So you have to just be aware of, and knowledge, as we say, gives you choice. There are good people out there who are helping, like the homeless people and people who are struggling at the moment, and there's food being dropped off to families and stuff like that. So I want to clarify that there are good people out there, and the last thing we want is a witch hunt or Chinese whispers and all that kind of stuff, because, there's so many people, there have been people that have been accused of certain things. The case that comes to mind is the young guy who was about 17, where the girl accused him of rape. And he went and committed suicide. And then when he did that, his mother was so distraught, she committed suicide. And then the girl said, "Oh, well, no, he didn't rape me, I was lying." Now, for me, that girl should have went to jail for about 20 years.
Yes. But of course, like when we talk of, there's a lot of confusion sometimes about what you call a child. Do you call a 16-year-old a child? A child with criminal responsibility is 10 and under. So technically, if you arrest a child of 10 stealing 2 chocolate bars, for example, you have to verify that they knew what the age of criminal responsibility. You have the other issue then that girls, between the internet and everything else, you can get a 14-year-old girl who can act more sophisticated than an 18-year-old. There is that, and girls are being a lot of girls are sexually active a lot younger. They can put a legal age on it, but there are, like you often see, girls of 14, 15 actually having babies. Yeah. And yes, 16 is the age of sex legally to have sex with a girl. She has to be 16. So there's a lot of issues around it.
But this is the thing if they go and change the law. I mean, there's been a couple of things put up that certain countries want to bring the legal age of consent down lower. But I'm sorry, but that's immoral because you have to, children. It doesn't matter what the legality is. Kids still have to grow up and go through puberty and stuff like that, Steve.
But we heard before, Catherine, and again, like this is up for for discussion. I don't know if it's true, but we did hear many years ago that even in the Catholic Church, and as we all know, in some religions, we often see that girls are married off to older gentlemen, and they can be as young as 12 or possibly younger. But we did hear that even in the Catholic Church, that on the day of your confirmation, that you were confirming, you're being confirmed that you are now like a man or a woman, and we were told a long time ago that's supposed to be, even though it's not really spoke about, but 12 is the age of consent as far as the Catholic Church is concerned. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah. No. Yeah, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. You see, if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s even, girls didn't start puberty in their periods till they were 13, a lot of them, 14, some of them. Now everything is moving faster. Girls get their periods at 9, 10. Whether it is the food or the change, do you understand where I'm coming from? Everything is moving just, their childhood is becoming increasingly shorter, unfortunately.
Well, it's society.
And they're a lot more savvy.
Yeah, society is the sexualization of kids, which is frightening because it just seems to be getting younger and younger. And that's the scary part.
Yeah,
but as Catherine was saying,
because it's absolutely, it is such a pity. I mean, but you even find, I see now parents putting their children under pressure, even at primary school. Demanding of the teachers that they're supposed to be like top of the class, or they're not doing enough work or doing enough homework, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, from there they have to go to secondary school, then they're under pressure for points for university, and then they're under pressure at, they have to have, children have to have a childhood and a happy childhood. And as I say, it's all sexualization, to be honest with you. And I notice there's a lot of controversy now that they have classes. Is the child happy in the body it's in? There's this kind of putting pressure on kids. It is just astonishing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, what's all that about? What's all that about, Catherine? I mean, that's something that's kind of
Did you read that? Yeah. Did you read that in the UK? Yeah.
I actually heard during the week. I heard stuff during the week, and it's got to the stage now where, you're born male or female, and we all kind of knew that, sometimes you might be a man trapped in a woman's body, etc. So therefore, you may be gay. But as far as we were always concerned, you were either one or the other. You were straight or you were gay. And now I believe it's something like, is it 17 different gender types? No,
65.
65.
I think it's going up.
It's going up.
It's going up. So yeah, it's a bit scary, all right. That it's gone a bit too. That's gone a bit nutty, but Well, let's just touch base on the missing persons, because we're going to be bringing Patrick in a few minutes. So what's the state of play now at the moment? You're just saying that you have 3 people in the Phoenix Park. A great idea to bring retired detectives back for 2 days a week. That's a good idea. What are you? Are you working at this full time at the moment?
I'm sort of working constantly on different missing persons, in that a lot of the families ask me to do posters for them, to put out poster appeals on anniversaries. The other sad thing is parents tell me that when they contact newspapers begging to put in an appeal for their child, the newspapers decline, saying, sorry, it's not newsworthy.
Oh, that's nice.
Really?
Isn't that shocking?
That's terrible.
That's why you've only heard of, sorry, now I don't mean any disrespect, because I've actually met Jojo's sister Mary and Kathleen, but that's why Jojo has high profile. But, as you say, you're looking through a website there and there's names you never heard of. you know. And the parents will tell you that that's what the newspapers tell them, that, sorry, but it's not newsworthy. And then you think a woman naked who romped with some guy last night in a house is newsworthy. You think, what? You know?
Well, Catherine, can I just say something there? Over in America, they're a bit more liberated over there, and they're a bit more open-minded. And there was a TV program on Sky which I used to watch called Psychic Detective. And the detectives and the police who are looking for missing persons, when they actually have used all the resources and they just don't have a clue, they would call in these psychic detectives. And a lot of the time, they would solve the case and know what happened. Is that not a consideration?
I suppose it depends on whether you believe in psychics. I suppose there are most definitely people with a gift, but it was said to me many years ago that if you have a 40-acre field and a psychic comes to you and says there's a gun in the middle of that field, he said the only reason he'll know it is he's put the gun there himself.
No, well, sorry, that's wrong.
Patrick has had dealings with psychics, Patrick Collins.
Yeah. Well, Catherine, can I just say, sorry,
yes.
That's wrong. That's a very narrow-minded, ignorant attitude to have regarding psychics, because I've met very good psychics who are very good at what they do, and I find a person going around saying that it's an insult to psychics. I know there's charlatans out there, and I know there's people that would kind of try and get in the press and do something like that. There's always bad apples, but I know there's also good psychics out there. So to tar everybody with the same brush is very, very ignorant. I wouldn't be entertaining something like that.
Yeah, and I'm aware that. But America is quite different. Americans do rely on psychics, but they also they work with private detectives.
No.
And they work with voluntary missing persons. Now, there are since 2000, incidentally, there has been 3 voluntary. Father Aquinas Duffy is one on missing person. The other one is Miss. That's run by Dermot Brown, and that's another voluntary missing person. And Joe Blake runs Trace. So 3 voluntary organisations have sprung up since Father Aquinas started his website. But one thing I can categorically assure you, they don't get any government funding. They get the minimum.
Yeah. Well, this is
it's such a pity, because most of the work is done by volunteers.
This is it. Well, I just want to clarify something there for the listeners. I'm not calling Catherine ignorant by any way. The person who said that to Catherine, I was referring to there. I just want to clarify that. That's not in reference to Catherine at all. Just if somebody said to Catherine that that's the way the psychic attitude is, then I'd be very concerned about that. I wasn't referring to Catherine. I just want to clarify that. But no, I totally agree. There's a lot of good volunteers out there and volunteer groups who are helping out and helping the people. And I just thought, you know what, if God forbid, if anything happened, say a family member that went missing, I would actually be calling in a psychic. Definitely, because if I've exhausted everything and there's no luck, I would call in a psychic, because I know...
Well, let me tell you now, talking about that, there's an absolute tragic case. I've met him. He's a lovely, lovely man, and Seamus O'Brien from Wexford. His son, Cahal, was one of 9 children. Seamus is a school teacher in Wexford. Cahal was a wonderful lad, very close to his siblings. Never caused a day's bother in his life, finished his degree, and said to his dad, I'll take a year out now before I decide what career I'll take. And his parents were quite happy because he'd studied hard, and he decided to work for the Simon community in Cork for a year before he decided on his career. And he came home to his parents at a weekend, and his father drove him to the bus to get the bus back to Cork. And when Seamus arrived home to his wife Eileen, he said, did you think there was something wrong with Cahal this weekend? And she said, I can't say I didn't. He said, I know my son. He said, there's something bothering him. He said, I'm going to drive down to Cork next week. And when he arrived down to the house that he was in, renting on behalf of the Simon, a man met him at the door and said, "Oh, he's gone travelling. He's gone travelling." And his father said, "That's astonishing." So he came down the following week and got the same. And he went to the guards and they said, sure, youngsters go travelling all the time. 3 months later, Cahill, no contact, and he missed his brother's 21st birthday. And his father said, "Right, I know now something terrible has happened to Cahill." So he went down to Cork station and he demanded that they take a missing person report. Now it turns out that Cahill was one of 3 people murdered in a house in Wellington Terrace in Cork City. And he was buried in Lowsmore Woods. And they have never found his body. And I was saying to Seamus, well, is there any searches? Has anybody planned any searches to find your son's remains? He said, "I used to come down, I used to load up my car," he said, "with my parishioners down in Wexford, and we'd come down and with our shovels and spades, and we'd be digging in areas in the woods." I said, "What?" I said, "Did the guards actually allow you to do that?" And is that a reflection of Ireland?
Well, this is it. I'll tell you what, Catherine, we're going to get Patrick in now. Do you want to just drag Patrick in from the Skype in the nicest possible way?
Sure.
I mean by that. But that's frightening. But let's just find
that actually happens. Like it is just, it's inhumane, really.
It is. Okay, we're just going to see if we can call. See if Patrick can come in there. We should be calling him now. Patrick, are you there? Is that calling at the moment, Ian?
Hello.
Hello, Patrick. How are you doing? Good evening.
How are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Patrick, we have Catherine on here. We're just doing the interview, and Catherine mentioned about you wanting to come on and do an appeal for your sister who went missing. Catherine, if you want to have a quick talk with Patrick, and then you can get Patrick to, put the appeal out there on the radio show, that'd be great.
Are we on live
now?
No, we're not.
We are. We're live. We're live.
We're live at the moment, yeah.
Yes, hi, Patrick. Hi, Patrick. I'll just give you the background to Patrick's case. Basically, Sandra vanished on the 4th of December 2000. She was a missing person up to about 2011, and then it was upgraded 11 years later to a murder inquiry. So Patrick has, since his mother died within 2 years of Sandra going missing, and his father died 2 years ago, and it has been passed on to Patrick now, and his sisters Bridie and Mary and his brother David, that they have to continue looking for Sandra's body in Mayo, in near Killala in Mayo. I would suggest that Sandra's body is within 10 miles of Killala. So that's the background to Patrick's case.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Patrick?
Yes, I can. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Patrick. And do you want to just tell our listeners, give out your appeal there and what you want to say?
Well, I suppose maybe it's what 17 years now since it happened, and an awful lot has happened in that time. And as Catherine said, my mother died. My father has died 2 years ago this month. My brother died in an accident, 6 months before Sandra went missing in a workplace accident. And I suppose it's like when you lose somebody, whether it's through a death or through an illness such as cancer, it's a horrific time and it's a horrible time, but there's a grieving process and everything else like that. With this is just the complete worst nightmare that you could possibly ever find yourself in.
Of course.
Even if somebody's murdered and they've found their body, whether there's justice or there's not justice, you're allowed to grieve and you're allowed to move on. Whereas with this, there's no closure, there's no end in sight for you, and your life is constantly, it's like being on a treadmill that you can never get off. And you can't press the stop button because you can't get there.
And do you have, obviously you've gone into analysing if Sandra was okay, was there any problems, personal problems that she had. You've gone through all of this, and what has come of that? Did anything come out that might be a red flag?
That she lived with my aunt in a very small town in Killala, and she went to the shops at about 7:30 to buy some groceries for herself and my aunt and the old man who lived next door, and she bought firelighters and bread and milk for him, and this was, I suppose, in the depths of winter. She returned to his house at number 9 and said that she was in a rush and that she couldn't speak to him, that I think she was going to meet somebody and that she'd see him tomorrow. So she leaves his house, and that's it then until she's seen at 11:15 or 11:30 buying enough food for 2 people in the local takeaway, and Sandra walked out the door and never came home until 4 days later. Her fleece jacket, the jacket she wore out that night she went missing, was found on the pier in Killala with the sausages that she had went out to buy. And I suppose in an attempt to make it look like she committed suicide, but she wasn't troubled or she wasn't worried about anything. No, absolutely not. No way. Under no circumstances was she worried. Now, she had found out in the morning that she disappeared, that she was pregnant.
Okay.
So,
I come back to, sorry Patrick, I'm interrupting you there, but the reason why I'm interrupting is that I said at the beginning of the program how hugely important it is for families when their relative goes missing. Is like Patrick didn't realise, and now that his parents, or Bridie or Mary or David, that 17 years on, they would still be looking for answers. But of course, what Patrick is telling you, he wasn't aware of until 15 years later. And that's why it's vitally important.
That's correct. We weren't aware that Sandra was pregnant until, a number of years later, is what I mean, that information didn't come out. I mean, we didn't know on the 4th of December that Sandra was pregnant, or that she had found out from her GP. But as has been told, she wasn't upset, she wasn't worried, she wasn't anxious. She just said that was fine, and she took it on board, and that was the case.
There is a prime suspect. There is a suspect in Sandra's case. Who's
the father, Catherine? Who's the father?
Pardon?
Who's the father?
Well, I can't answer that, or no one can answer that. I suppose there's nobody that can answer that question.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
But there is a prime suspect in the case.
Okay.
And, but what we are confident of is that Sandra was muddled and that she was buried. And basically, Patrick, at this stage, would say, do we want justice? I think it comes way down in the list after everything they've been through. What they would say is, look, could we have her body back? Because at least if we can put her into a grave, we can visit her, we can actually say, we have her, that's what we want. And I know a lot of families might say, but by God, I'd want justice for my sister, or I'd want justice. But you haven't walked in the shoes that the Collinses have walked in.
So do you think that her murder was due to the fact that she did get pregnant, and maybe whoever did it...
It would be correct.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be correct.
Yeah. Because I think I think the Fiona Penda case was based on the same premise that she got pregnant and it wasn't wanted, and but I don't know. I'm just speculating because that's what I was told. I don't know whether that's true or not.
Well, I think what happens, if you look at the case there, for example, there would have been a prime suspect in Sandra's case. Of course, it took 11 years for him to be regarded as a suspect, and that's because suspects can be a step ahead. And what they do is they play on witnesses and say to a witness, listen, if the guards ask you there where I was on Saturday night, would you just say I was with you between 8 and 10 because the missus, I might get into trouble with the missus. And so somebody unwittingly might give that false alibi, not realizing until years later, Jesus, what have I done?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. There was a particular suspect in Sandra's case that was a step ahead always, and that's why the guards were fed when the guards did make inquiries. Subsequently, it would appear that they were lied to by various witnesses who didn't realize the significance of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite interesting. And what do you do, Patrick, now? Obviously, it's been a few years now since it's happened, since Sandra went missing. What have you obviously still, are you still putting flyers out and contacting media, or how have they reacted to your request to? Because Catherine was saying that people wanting to put missing persons in the paper, they're not really interested in that. How have you felt? How's that been for you?
Well, I suppose we've been lucky in the fact that we've had a tremendous support from the media, both local and national, and I have to commend them for their consistent, unwavering support of us. I have to say, our local radio station, our local newspaper, for 17 years they've stood with us, and indeed I have some wonderful friends in the national media, in print and in television and radio, which have been absolutely phenomenal. And I suppose it's unless we get their support, the stories, Sandra's story fades away into the background and people get on with their own lives, and that's the reality of it. But I suppose without their support, we wouldn't be able to put it out there and reissue the appeals, and so I think it's highly important. It's instrumental, I think, in highlighting the cases. It has to be.
And
not just our own.
and Patrick will tell you that any time an appeal does go out, particularly with posters and things like that, a witness invariably does come forward. And I'm fully aware that Patrick has had wonderful support in Mayo, but as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of other parents, for example, if I said, who's Dennis Walsh? Does anybody know who Dennis Walsh is? No. Does anybody know who Dennis Walsh is? No. Does anybody know who Matthew Carroll is? No. You can go through hundreds of men's names that haven't had a word or even their anniversary acknowledged. The women actually are rather lucky in that Sandra, the Collinses are such a decent, likeable, respectful family that anybody would be more than pleased to assist them. And George O'Donnell, the women have had quite a lot of publicity, from George O'Donnell to Deirdre Jacobs, Annie McCarrick. But you could pick, say, 7 women that have had that are highlighted in Ireland. But look at where are the other 1,600 that are missing?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I suppose that we're lucky in the sense that... You know what I mean,
Patrick?
Yeah, I guess, I know what you're saying. I mean, the women are, I suppose we're lucky in the fact that Sandra's a woman. And I suppose her, even for her, the likes of Deirdre Jacobs and all them ladies, and George O'Donnell and all them, will be well known as regards, if you said...
Well, there's a young lady there called Madigan. There's a young lady called Madigan there. She's from Laois. She never gets a word in the media. There's Imelda from Cork. She never gets a word. I think it's up to the families. I think it is a tribute to the Collinses that Sandra's case is getting publicity, because they're persistent. They won't give up.
Definitely.
And they try to have this at all times, whether it is her anniversary or her birthday or a special mass. They're very, very committed, and they're very, very persistent, and they will not give up until they find her,
Okay.
And
well, that's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we've been blessed in that has met some wonderful people, Catherine included, that have helped us immensely. But we've had to go out there as well and look for it, and we've never given up the fight, or we've never given up the hope of looking for her. And my father died, he'll be 2 years dead this month, the 22nd of February. And one of his parting words, well, it wasn't his one, it was, he knew he was sick, we actually had a memorial service on the pier in Killala, where Catherine was in attendance that day. And we had RTE, and Teresa Mannion was there, and she did a fantastic report. And, just exceptional. And it was, I think, the second story on the news. But to cut a long story short, it was on the 16th of August, and 2 weeks later, my father found himself in hospital, and we found out that he had lung cancer, which was a bit of a blow and completely out of the blue from a man that cut a ribbon in memory of his, deceased daughter, whatever you want, missing, I don't know what cat. You see, I suppose we fall between two stools. She's dead and she's also missing. But anyway, he went and he had his chemotherapy, and as anybody knows, that is a battle in itself. I watched, I saw, I experienced on a level that I don't ever want to experience again. And unfortunately for him, it wasn't to be. And he said one day to me, I want you to promise me something, and I said, I will, if I can. And he was a very realist, no more than my mother. She also knew she was going to die. That we would never stop looking for Sandra. And I said, well, first of all, you'll be here. And I said, second of all, we won't ever stop looking for her, that we will find her. And he said, all I want you to do is put her bones in on top of me and your mother. And of course my brother, because my brother was buried in the grave as well. And I said, well, we will give it our best shot, and we will fight tooth and nail to find her, because we loved her that much. And yes, she meant that much to us. And I suppose for him and my mother, because he died in the hospital and my mother died at home. He wasn't well enough to pass away here at home. But her remarks in the days before she died, was that she thought she would see the day that Sandra would come home. And her remark to the four of us was that she wouldn't see the day that Sandra would come home, but that when she got to heaven, she would do her best to try and help us. And my sister immediately remarked, oh, don't be saying that. And I'm like, you're going to be here, we're going to find her, and the whole lot. I said, well, we have to be realistic, Bridie. We're not going to be under any illusion, I suppose.
And that's the human cost, isn't it, Patrick? It's like living in a fog, and then you see your nearest and dearest succumb to cancer and stress, and we know emotional cancer, emotional turmoil just leads to stress, leads to illness, and the whole, it can sort of dominate your life,
It can have
most families, pray first thing in the morning.
It can have a major
pray
effect.
last thing at night.
That's right. Listen, Catherine, we're just keeping an eye on the time, but I do want you to say to our listeners, if they feel that a family member has gone missing or they suspect it, can you give them the 5 top things that they need to do, or whichever, it could be top 10 things, but could you tell our listeners what they have to do if they think somebody's gone missing?
Okay. Well, first of all, obviously you're concerned that your child hasn't come home or maybe hasn't answered the phone, and you will obviously hopefully know who he was going out with. If that person hasn't seen him and he's missing, you go to the police station, the Garda station, and you say, my son is missing. Now, I've seen some very bad accidents here in Ireland, and what's happened is a group of lads have gone out on a minibus, and say 12 of them have gone on the minibus, and they've gone on the lash, and only 11 of them have got on the minibus, and one is missing, and tragically that person has been found dead through a tragic accident. So it's important, first of all, if you go out in a group, make sure that you come home in a group. And so when parents find out, You can check the mobile phone, check with their friends. If you're worried enough that they're not coming home, you report them at the Garda station. But then what you have to do is you have to go to their friends individually and note down what they tell you, where you last saw them. Was there anything worrying them? Did they ever mention about going abroad? Had they got a passport? Can you check the airports? Can you check the ferries? Can you check friends in the UK? Get in touch with Trace Missing Persons Ireland. That's the third website. It's wonderful for circulating missing persons. Absolutely marvellous for circulating missing persons. That's vital. Radio stations, those would be the top tips, but it would also be important not just to do it on day one. It would be important for responsible adults to go back to the location he was last seen. And if he was in a licensed premises at 8 o'clock on a Monday night, go back there at 8 o'clock on the Tuesday and the Wednesday night and keep locating witnesses, because it is witnesses that in every single missing person or crime, the guards are always looking for the public's help.
Yeah.
And it is the public that helps the guards to solve crime. That is the reality of it. The guards can't solve crime if they don't get the public's help. And so, but I would suggest as parents who are desperately worried that they keep on top of it themselves, because they don't want to end up a statistic in 17 years' time. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does indeed. Well, okay, I'll tell you what we do. We only have a few minutes left, because obviously we have to get our next guest on. So what I'd like you, Catherine, is to give us out any details that you can give our listeners, and obviously with Patrick as well. Steve, if you want to go through what we normally do at the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll start off with Catherine. Catherine, if you can just maybe just give us some contact details. If anyone needs to contact you, or I'm not saying not your phone number or anything, but you know, if there's a website where people can find out more about what you work.
You could give out my phone number. It's never a problem, because I would never ever, as Patrick would tell you, I would never ever turn the family away who are in that horrendous situation. And if I could ever help with posters or anything, I would only be too pleased to help. So I have no problem if anybody needs advice or has information. They're more than welcome to call me. I never have an issue with it. Patrick, you can contact Patrick by writing to him. He lives in Crossmolina, Fortish in Crossmolina in County Mayo. And but if anybody has information there, I mean, what the majority of families who are 17, 18, 20 years looking for their child, and who have now come to the realization there's something terrible, pick up the phone and just tell them where she is.
Patrick.
I want to say sorry. I just suppose that not cutting in there. I suppose 17 years ago we didn't have Facebook and we didn't have Twitter, so I suppose that's another avenue that if somebody goes missing, I would suggest that they get on it ASAP, certainly. And you know your own better than anyone else, so don't let anybody else tell you or that you're, you know, I mean, we were asked at the time, was Sandra, was Sandra the type that could commit suicide? Well, what is the type? That was my mother's answer. Absolutely not. Not the Sandra we knew and not the Sandra that we loved. But getting back to information, sometimes, and I know myself, after 17, 18, 20 years, and listening to recent interviews on the Late Late Show, that, you know, about, you know, oh, just come forward and you won't get into trouble. Like, I totally and utterly respect that there is people down in that tiny village 8 miles away from us that knows exactly where Sandra Collins is buried tonight. Why? Are they? Because they're afraid, probably. Yeah. Afraid of the repercussions on themselves and their family, and also, if I come forward now, will I get into trouble with the guards? Yeah. Will I be done for perverting the course of justice? And I can categorically say that they won't, but it's easy for me to come on anywhere and say, no, I promise you the guards won't do anything. It's still a very reluctant thing for them to do. I understand that, and I totally and utterly can empathise with the people, because 8, 9 years ago, after we made a television appeal, people actually came forward. People that had made statements at the time changed them because they've seen the devastation and the impact that this was having in 2010 on my family.
And I completely understand that, Patrick, and I think what we should do, I'm sorry we have to finish it there because we have another guest to come on the show, a big thank you for coming on. Catherine, a big thank you for coming on. Catherine, quickly, just call out your mobile phone number there.
It's 087 754 6753.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, I think what we should do, Catherine and Patrick, I think it would be a good idea that if we do a part 2 of the show in a couple of months' time and do an update, because this is an ongoing thing and people are going missing. And I think it's good to that if people have friends or family who go missing, that they can contact OYM Radio and we can put a call out on the radio as well and use us as a medium to get the information out there. A big thank you, Catherine, for coming on the show and talking to us about this. A very, very important subject. Patrick, again, thank you for coming on the live show to talk about, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
We hope
thank you very much.
That's okay, no problem. We hope you have some success in getting information about your sister and getting some kind of disclosure. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Okay, we're back. John Waite there, Missing You, an appropriate song. We just spoke with Catherine and Patrick during the break there, and we just want to put it out there. If anyone knows any information that may help to put this case to bed,
or any case
that is, please do feel free. If you are listening to this live broadcast or the podcast, contact OYM anonymously. It will be treated completely anonymously, and we can pass on any information. That's the very least we can do.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so our next guest is a lady that hasn't been on the show since January 2017. I think that's the last time we did the show with Danielle. And then Danielle's going to be at the Open Mind Conference down in Waterford with ourselves, doing a talk down there. So we're going to get Danielle, catch up on what she's been doing and find out what she's going to be talking about. Good evening, Danielle. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. As I said, we just got you in there. Congratulations are in order. Do you want to give out the good news?
Yeah, I've just got engaged.
There you go. Well done. Very good. There you go. A little cheer there. Now, well, you're coming. No, I did see you last year in the Open Mind Conference. I was down there. You were there.
Very briefly, we got to bump into each other, didn't we?
We did indeed. And you weren't talking at the time, were you? Were you just there?
Yeah, I was just there. There was some talk of me giving a talk, and they did say to me while I was there, would you like to do something? And I was like, I haven't prepared anything. Not that I ever really prepare, but it was so last second that I was like, guys, it's probably best for me not to at the moment, because I wouldn't have even known what I would have spoken about for that hour or so. But Trevor very kindly asked me if I would speak this year, so I was very happy about that and jumped at the opportunity because it was such an amazing experience last year. For it being the first conference,
well, the
turnout was fantastic.
You did the Basis conference as well with Miles, didn't you?
I have done Basis,
yeah. We did that last year. We did that in September with Miles. We did the talk there, and I thought last year was very good.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, you know, sometimes you go to these things and there can be a lot of kind of opposing opinions and ideas, and people can be a bit uncomfortable. But this was such a high vibrational conference. It was incredible. The people were amazing. The setting itself is just fantastic. And the guys, you know, Trevor and everybody who put it together, they did such an incredible job. And I had the best time, and I'm so looking forward to doing this year and actually having the chance to give a talk, because I haven't done any for quite a long time. It must be a good couple of years since the last time I did one.
And when are you on?
I think, if I remember rightly, it's Sunday morning at 9:30.
Okay, we're doing the Saturday morning about 9:30, I think. That's when we're on. Okay, well, that's, I know that we've known you a few years, and you came onto the scene as a quite controversial character with your videos.
Yeah.
Although I thought they were very entertaining myself.
Do you know, I think it was very much a Marmite thing. You either loved them or you hated them.
Yeah.
And I think when you're doing something like that, you're really not aware of what people are really getting from it, or what they're really thinking about it. And at the time, I think it was just one of those things where you get swept up, and it's only really when I look back now that I realise how big it was.
Yeah, it was massive, and my list of swear words have grown considerably after watching them videos.
Yeah, there were some really good ones in there. I remember at one point somebody actually analysing the swear words I'd used, because people just assumed I'd made them up and put them together and what have you. So somebody actually went through and, like Urban Dictionary or something, and tried to say that I was fraudulent because I'd stolen all of these words. And it was a chaotic time. I had so much fun with it at the time. It really was a lot of fun, and I think there's so few women out there who were doing this at the time.
Well, you had your heart on your sleeve when you did it.
Absolutely,
and you were calling it the way you were seeing it, and that's what I had respect for you for doing it. Is that you came out and we're all angry at the system and what goes on, and you expressed it quite well in the videos. And it was a case of Marmite. I wouldn't worry. I kind of took it tongue in cheek, and I think for you coming out and doing what you did was very entertaining. And I couldn't argue what you were saying, because you're just calling out people, and that's and the politicians and everything that was going on. So that was quite interesting. Now you had you don't do that anymore, and you've have you had an epiphany now and decided to move on, and you've done that, seen I have the T-shirt and we'll have the OYM T-shirts. And,
I do indeed.
You do, yeah. And now you're not doing that. So what are you doing now?
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where over time, the more knowledge you acquire and the more you begin to understand what's going on and the root of really what's going on and why it's going on, you begin to delve into other areas, and there's just so much to this. And then as you begin to understand the vastness, particularly universally, you realise actually that going out there and screaming and shouting isn't necessarily the best idea. And, in terms of energy, what we focus our attention on, it will expand. And that element of resistance, I kind of sat there and I thought, gosh, maybe this isn't the best angle. And it was difficult because, like I said, it was a Marmite thing. And I did, for all of the wonderful people I met and, the support, there was an element of real nastiness towards me, which was fine. I had no impact on me in terms of stressing me out, but when people start to target your family and start to delve into your own personal life and start trying to cause trouble and various things, you sit there and you think, is this really worth it for what I'm doing and what I'm actually achieving? Is the danger that my family are being placed in, or potential danger, is it worth it? And then I had a couple of experiences where, with things like YouTube, and you become a familiar face, lots of people know who you are, but you don't know who they are.
True.
And you don't have the kind of protection that you probably would if you were somebody that was on TV or something like that. And if you go viral overnight, you are vulnerable to a degree.
But also, can I just add that, you are an attractive woman, and that could attract a certain element as well.
I think there were times where that might have been the case. There was one particular incident with somebody who did actually travel into the country and found out where I lived and turned up at my house. And it was a very frightening experience. And it really made me have to sit and rethink what I was doing, because you know, I was a single woman with 2 children, and the risk, the potential risk of something happening to any of us just wasn't okay. And I guess I had to really start looking at how I was attracting that kind of situation, experience in my life, and it did make me rethink, and I mellowed out an awful lot. I became much more focused on understanding the energy behind why the politicians and the system do what they do to us, and I think as well it allowed me to find some peace in my own life. And then it just kind of snowballs, and you just become more and more aware of so many different things. And I guess I just kind of reached this point where I realised, actually, what's really important here? The importance is allowing ourselves to remember who we are and to remember where we come from, which is that place of unconditional love and kindness. And it's very difficult for that to be translated into our human physical reality at times, because the world is a brutal place at times, but it is also a wonderful place.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
about finding balance there. And when you're so angry, and I completely, what I did back then, how angry I was, I really was angry. And I think everybody who finds this stuff out, at first, absolutely, there's absolutely cause to be angry. You know, these people, if you can call them that, are intentionally trying to destroy the lives of billions of people. And that's not okay. It's perfectly acceptable to be angry about it.
Yeah, totally. Now, obviously, where the Open Minds Conference is in Dooley's Hotel, Waterford, on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of March. Now, tell us what you're going to be covering on your conference, your talk down there.
I'm going to... the main bulk of what I wanted to talk about is about every experience and event in our lives are absolutely on purpose. It's this whole idea that there is no coincidence, and actually our experiences are very, very instrumental in the elevation of our, I guess, you know, people have different words for it, higher self, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. And that the things that we experience in our lives send us on different paths, but every experience is there really to remind us of who we are, for us to reconnect back to where we came from before we embodied in the physical. And how those events, if we see things in such a, I was going to say a human way, but we're so physically focused that a lot of the time we're reacting to the situations that occur in our lives, as opposed to really looking deeply into them and understanding that there is this incredible divinity in the experiences we have, whether they're classed as positive or negative by us in a human sense from our emotional reaction. They all have a real deeply profound purpose in our lives. And if we can step back out of ourselves just a little bit at times, particularly I find when we're experiencing something that seems very, very difficult emotionally, physically, we tend to ask the question, why? Why is this happening to me? Why has this happened now? I could have been doing this, or this, and now this has happened. Why? When actually I've begun to realise, and this is through my own personal experience in the last 5 months of my life particularly, is instead of asking why, now I do my best to say, what's this showing me, and what can I do with this? How can I make this useful to myself, to the rest of humanity? What can I do to make this purposeful?
Have you found your path? I was just going to say, have you found your path of energy? Because we always say, you know, people turn around and go, oh, everything I do, it doesn't work out for me. And we always say, well, that's because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Your goal in life and wherever your soul contract is you'll know it because the energy will be behind you. Have you found that energy? Have you found what your goal is or what your path is?
Do you know, I think last year I thought I had, earlier on in the year, I was incredibly happy. I was, regardless of the difficulties that were in my physical experience, I was very, very happy. I was very well aligned. My vibration was through the roof until September. And my world literally came crashing down around me. And it's, at first, the terror, the sheer terror of it was so immense that I couldn't see the wood for the trees, and I just couldn't really understand what was happening. I was very, very scared. And over time, as things started to happen and my life literally began to just fall apart day by day, week by week, and then all of a sudden, as I was able to become a little bit calmer, these incredible events started to take place. And while it didn't necessarily alleviate the stress and the fear and worry in my immediate experience, I began to understand the divinity at play. And it allowed me very slowly and very gently to start to realize that it's happening on purpose. It's not trying to destroy my life. It's not a case of trying to break me. It is, if you want to, if you have a derelict building that's no longer useful, it's knocked down and something new is built in its place. And that's basically how I feel about what's happened in my life over the last few months. And I think very few people really are aware that the old has to be removed before the new can make its way in. And as I look over the last few months, or even the last few years with my now fiance, where there were a number of opportunities for us to build that relationship and have that relationship, and at each point it didn't work out. And now it's kind of like, right, this last few months, the universe has kind of gone, we've given you all these opportunities, the pair of you are rubbish, boom, let's blow some stuff up. And that's how we'll get you together. And that's exactly what happened. And now I can kind of link all of these events and understand that my path was absolutely being guided.
Okay, so the universe was taking the gently approach, and you were ignoring it, and they said, right, love, we're going to send in the bull in the china shop.
It does feel like that, very much so.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, again, I'd say the talk is going to be very interesting. We have two quick questions, because we're watching the time here. Two quick questions for you. If you can read them out, if you can do a one-line answer to them, that would be great. Steve?
Yes, Danielle, we have a one from Shane. Shane says, all those videos are gone from YouTube searches, and her Queen's speech has an audio file placed on top. What's going on with your YouTube channel?
As far as my YouTube channel goes, I actually closed that down for a while. Okay. Over the last few months, as I've been unwell, I closed a lot of my social media outlets down to give myself some breathing space. So that was me. But as far as the other one goes, I've no idea what that is. Somebody's probably put it up and put stuff on it.
Okay.
They usually do.
Right, Moon Girl on People's Internet Radio says, being a crypto girl myself, I believe cryptos will be the elite's undoing. What are Danielle's views?
I'm really sorry, I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about.
Cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency, that's what you're talking about.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. I'm always really careful about stuff like this because people tend to go crazy, but I've got no interest. I honestly believe that most of these things are thrown up by the system, so I tend to just avoid anything now.
Touche.
Just try and find my own way.
Yeah, touche. That's what we're kind of thinking. We're not touching the Bitcoin stuff at all. We would like to deal with tangible things that we can touch, feel, like money and obviously time banking and everything else.
I'd rather trade buttons.
Yeah, or energy. Your time.
Yeah,
chocolate buttons.
Time banking. Right, okay, right.
Chocolate and cake, yeah.
Chocolate and cake. Right, we've reached that time. Danielle, thank you for coming on. I hope you have a great conference. You probably will see Steve, but you won't see me because we're talking on the Saturday and I have to head back, but Steve is staying overnight with the missus.
I will be there
weekend.
all weekend.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'll see you then. Okay.
We'll see
so
you.
you might see her talk. You never know. Okay.
I will indeed.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details. And
Thank you.
the next time we'll see you will be in March.
Excellent.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing you again.
And you
Right,
too.
Danielle, if anyone wants to find out more about you or track you down, I suppose, well, YouTube, or are you still kind of available online? You know, are you still putting up
Yeah,
posts?
best way to find me now is Facebook at the moment.
Facebook. The
Okay.
anti-social media, okay.
And
Yes.
you've 2 accounts on
Great.
Facebook, I believe.
I do have 2 accounts. One is a very small one, which is just for my family and very close friends, and the other one is the one for everybody, which is the one I work on.
Fantastic. So if you go to Facebook and type Danielle's name, then you'll be able to find it there on Facebook. Right, Danielle, just stay with us there. Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
And we'll go off to musical break and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Johnny Kidd and the Pirates shaking all over. Alan just said during the break, he said, I have a lot more music in my collection than that sort of crap. But I just want to say, yeah, I'm playing that for a reason. I don't know if you were reading the chat there while you were chatting to Danielle, but I was electrocuted today.
You were electrocuted?
I was electrocuted today, yeah.
I know you have an electrifying personality, but
yeah, if I had hair, I'd be standing up. No, I was fixing the toaster today. You know the button on the toaster, you push it down and it locks in place and you toast and then it pops up. Yeah. Well, mine wasn't popping. So my wife said to me this morning, would you ever have a look at that toaster? And I says, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So I opened the toaster, as you do, plugged it in, pressed the thing down, there was nothing happened. So unplugged it, cleaned the contacts on the board, was looking for, the usual bits and pieces that get stuck down there. And there's kind of an electromagnet thing going on, so made sure everything was working there was power going there. Plugged it back in again, pushed the button down, and it still didn't work. Unplugged it. And I've done this about maybe 10 times. And on the last time, I pushed the yoke down after cleaning the contacts again. And it stuck. It worked. And I was delighted. I was going, yes, it's sorted now. So rather than unplug it, I was so excited. I put both hands on the board. And I got it joked. And my youngest daughter, Holly, who's 5, she was beside me. And I just kind of jumped. And she said, are you okay, Daddy? And I says, yeah, I just got a little shock off the toaster. And did the toaster sting you? I said, yeah, it did, yeah. So, that's why I played that song. Cause
I had one of them shocks years ago. It's not nice. It's funny, isn't it?
It wakes you up, though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. No, it's not nice. As long as he didn't say, oh, I just got a knife, stainless steel knife, and stuck it in while it was plugged in. At least he didn't say that. That's a good thing.
No. No.
Right. Interesting show tonight about the missing people in Ireland. And I think we will do another show got to do with that, because there's still a lot of people missing, So I definitely think we'll do a part 2. It's good having Danielle on as well. We haven't had her on the show for a long time, since January 2017. So she'll be down in Waterford at the Open Minds Conference, 2nd, 3rd and 4th of March. Now, for people who listen to Thomas Williams' show, Thomas did the show there during the week, and he mentioned on it there that America is now a sovereign country, and now the work begins to rebuild it with the help of Miss Mana and the Foundation. These ripples will be like ripples across a pond, which will eventually hit Europe and obviously hit Ireland. So we have to keep an eye out for the positive changes. Basically, Donald Trump was given a letter on the Saturday the 27th. And basically in the letter, it's just saying that America is now being declared as a sovereign nation, and that all treaties are null and void. Whatever treaties were in place, they're not there anymore. They're a sovereign country onto themselves. No links to the crown or anything like that. So that's very, very good historical news. What we have to do is, obviously, there's going to be people out there who are going to be sceptical, and they'll say, prove it, which is understandable. We understand that. So what we'll do is keep an eye on things and watch for positive changes. It's not so much, Trump could have come out, when he did the speech during the week, the State of the Union address, I think that's what they call it, he didn't mention anything. But I suppose when you're under threat to be killed by yourself or your family and all that, you have to be careful what you say. But it would be good if he does come out somewhere down the line, or something said down the line, to actually thank the Foundation and Miss Mana and of THI and whoever else has been involved with this massive, massive project of making changes for the better. They're not, Miss Manna, the foundation and THI are not looking for a pat on the back. They had a job to do and they did their job. But it would be nice to get some recognition for it. So let's just keep an eye on what's going down. But a massive announcement. I recommend going over and listen to Thomas's show from Thursday. Have a listen to it. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And listen to the declaration that was made, the letter that was given to Trump and what I said in the letter about the sovereignty of the USA. So it's not USA Inc. anymore. It's America, United States of America, and it's a sovereign nation now. And that means the two sovereign nations on the planet, America and the Kingdom of Manna, are sovereign. And there's 120 odd other countries who are expressed an interest in becoming sovereign as well. Because remember, a sovereign nation is will only protect itself. It's going to be defensive, not offensive. It's not going to cause wars. It's only going to protect itself if it's being attacked. And that's the way it should be. The cabal will do what they do to make money. That's why we've had wars since like 1912 onwards. World War I, World War II, and God knows all the other wars that are going on. It's all about making money. The Carlyle Group making money out of defence contracts and all that kind of stuff. Knock it down and then send in all the contracts to build it back up again and make loads of money. So the plug has been definitely pulled, and that's basically it. From now on in, we'll keep an eye on things, but now on in, things should hopefully start changing quicker than you think. So let's be open-minded, be sceptical, as always. We always say that. But just keep an eye on things and see how it goes. But that ripple should come over to Europe and start affecting other governments and other countries as well. So that's kind of good news there. The other thing that is happening is that next Saturday, we are starting a new monthly roundtable discussion called United We Start at 6 p.m. GMT. This will be a 2-hour show with all kinds of people joining the core team of myself and Steve, if you can make it, because I know you can be busy with the family and stuff. Detlev and Michael from Wake News Radio, Matt Navarro from the New World Order Report, and plus friends and guests. Each month we'll have different people, we'll invite them on, and basically we'll be just getting people on and having a chat. We'll be all chatting as if we're sitting around the table talking about what's going on in the world. So you can go over to the new website at www.unitedwestart.org, and it's up and running. The information's on there. Obviously podcasts and stuff will be added to it as we go. So check it out, see what you think, give us some feedback and let us know what you think. And as I say, it's going to be 6 p.m. next Saturday from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock GMT time, and we'll just be getting together and having a chat. So that's on the cards. If we can all get there and have a chat.
Absolutely. So I mean, if you've nothing to do next Saturday, or you're at a loss, maybe you have 2 hours to spare, or even an hour to spare, so just drop in. As I say, tune in, drop out, or drop in and tune out, whatever the hell the saying is, I don't know. But yeah, we'll be there anyway. So it might be a nice little change, and obviously participation is required from the listening audience. Do we have a chat room?
There's a chat room on there as well. People can go in, and it's not registered users. We're going to open up the chat room to anybody, and if the chat room does get abused, then we'll close it down, and it will be registered users. It's that simple. Be an adult. If you don't agree with what's being said, make a constructive comment, but don't start insulting the guests, insulting the other people on the chat room. That's just childish. And that's why we had to close down, lock down the chat room in OYM, because there was just childish people coming on, insulting people on the chat room because they didn't agree with, what was being said. They just went off and went on the attack, which is childish.
It's still going on. You know who you are. Chris, Lynn.
No, there's a few. We have good people on our chat room there, and they have a good banter every week, and it's great to have you on there and chatting to each other and learning information and catching up on things. So that's it. Now, I have also been, I can't go into detail obviously, but I'm involved in the project which is keeping me busy during the week. And it could possibly get busier down the line depending. So, we don't know whether OYM will be a weekly show or a monthly show. It depends on how busy I get, but it's just the way things work out.
So Alan's Escort Agency .com.
Yeah, I'm being a gigolo. Yeah,
just the gigolo.
So that's really what's happening. So we'll have to say, we also have the video to redo. But it's a learning curve for us because TV is new to us and doing interviews. We did learn, didn't we?
Oh, we did.
We learned.
Baptism by fire, as I say, yeah. You think you know how to operate a camera until you actually get a camera, and then you try to operate and you go, that's it, job well done. Wrap it up, go home, play back the footage and realise, it was all out of focus.
It's all out of focus,
yeah,
and
anyway.
The background was terrible, and we had one or two other issues. So, but look, it's all learning, but that's what we're hoping to do. So, between OYM Radio, OYM TV, the United We Start table, the OYM conference, I mean, I think my
up and coming divorce.
Yeah, if you don't get home in time. So there you go. Anyway, so that's the news. But we're trying to keep. We're trying to get the information out there. Even though we were told there's positive changes being made, we will carry on doing what we're doing until we're not needed anymore. And then when we're not needed, we just go back into the woodwork.
And then we'll go back and start doing it all again.
We'll go back into the woodwork. But look, guys, if you like what we do, a little donation every now and again, it'd be fantastic. It really does make a difference. It helps pay the bills and it keeps the wheels in motion for OYM. We'd really appreciate that. It's much needed. But for myself anyway, take it easy. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week. We're going to have Mike Vara from the Late Night in the Midlands. He's a radio host over there, and we had Mike on before, so that's going to be interesting with Mike. So take care of yourself. We'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.
Just to mention donations, we also take donations of biscuits as well. Thank you very much. Just want to mention very, very quickly, Joan has a recommended video for people to check out on YouTube. It is The Mystery of Water. What we know is a drop, and it's on YouTube, and it has the potential how it can help life itself. So do check that out as well. Thanks for the mention for the link, Joan. Thanks for everyone who joined us on both of the chat rooms tonight on PIR and also OYM Radio. We're going to sever the connection now on OYM. Fairport is up next on PIR, so stay tuned for that. We'll catch you all again next week. Until then, bye bye.